Okay, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, viewing audience, for a little break we had. And we'll go to item C1, LaSalle Police Service revised schedule of fees.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of the board. I've taken quite a bit of time to review the recommendation that was brought forward in a delegation regarding the waiving of volunteer fees for police clearance applications. And a resolve to that was we struck a committee to look at a few different things as far as some in-house software additions to our lobby, and also where our fee structure was. And we found that our fee structure was actually not in line with what was going on throughout the area, and certainly is something that we needed to tighten up. You can see in my memo as well, there's 3 bylaws on the books with the town that covers covers our fee schedule, and it's created a lot of confusion. So what my recommendation going forward is that we revise our bylaw to bring it up to date, because I believe our old one talks about cassette tapes and different things in there too. So bring it up to the 2021 standard, and also look at revising the fee structure for a number of different areas. One of the options available to us, and again, it's subject to what the board's wishes are in this regard, but is to either, there's a new bylaw that the town is implementing. Just find the number here, 80, let me just find it. Excuse me for 1 second here. Bylaw number 8485, and what that bylaw covers is all fees that are payable to any town department related to the fees that each of those departments would charge. So the Vollmer complex, the fire department, when they're responding to motor vehicle accidents, that kind of thing. And there's an option of either adding the police service to that particular bylaw as a new schedule, or having an independent bylaw to replace all the 3 other bylaws that are still in effect. And again, they're kind of just compete with one another and bring us up to date. So the long and short of the proposal that was brought forward by the delegation was to waive volunteer fees. And when I did look into the numbers there, it does show that there would be a significant loss in revenue for our service. And that is a service that's provided by us. So our wages for our secretary that looks after police clearances are basically recuperated through some of that police clearance revenue. And there is employment revenue, there is student revenue, and there's volunteer revenue. And to just waive it across the board, I don't think would be a fiscally responsible way of going about things, but it's subject to the board's wishes with regards to this.
Okay, thanks, Chief. Questions? Mrs. Melange.
Do we ever hear of volunteer organizations covering the fees for the volunteers? Because it seems to me like we shouldn't be covering those fees, that the organization they're helping should be the ones covering those for them. So is that something we ever hear of?
Yeah, my understanding is from even family members that need a police clearance for the volunteering work that they're doing, it is covered by certain ones, and apparently there's others that don't cover it. So a lot of sports organizations require police clearances, and I believe those sports venues that cover that. I can't say right across the board because to each their own. But the long and short for us is that that's a service that is provided by our employees, and there's labor costs. There's, in fact, when I spoke to the administrative secretary that covers our police clearances, she says a majority of her time is spent on police clearances. So there is cost recovery there. Mind you, subject to the board's wishes here, and if there's a situation, I would suggest that should somebody come forward with a suggestion or a request to waive the fees, we can maybe perhaps look at it on an individual basis, but to have a blanket policy to say that, we're going to, lose $12,000, $15,000, $18,000 this year in revenue from police clearances, that may be something that we want to really consider.
Mr. Allen, questions, comments?
No, I don't know what the best way to go. I mean, it seems to me that if it could be included in the one bylaw, that makes a measure of sense. But certainly wiping out 3 to make 1 would be a second option from my point of view. I don't know. Chief, where are you at?
Well, I believe, in my opinion, the best option would be to go with the town bylaw and include it in that one as a schedule to that. However, maybe clarification from the clerk, the council clerk, as far as how that should actually work, because it is technically, it is fees that are collected by the service on behalf of the police services board. However, it's payable to the town. So these are all, basically, it's just wording. It's all town money that's coming in. So there's a couple of different options as to the way to go.
Okay, board, excuse me, Vicky, I won't ask you because you just came in, but basically, the chief just gave us a report on schedule of fees. We're not going to waive the volunteer fees. I know when I volunteered, I had to pay, and I was compensated that for my cost of the clearance, but I know not all services do that. Board's pleasure? Well, let me say this. The recommendation is that this memorandum and attachments be received for information, the revised schedule of fees be approved, and endorsement that bylaws number 6489, 7347, and 7792 be repealed by town council, and that either town of LaSalle bylaw 8485 be amended to include a new schedule G for fees charged by the LaSalle Police Service, or the new draft bylaw as attached be endorsed for consideration by town council. So you're right. If you put that on the agenda, it would come to town council and we'd have to vote on it. Mr. Allen.
So I move the recommendation.
Support.
Support by Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Item D1, crime severity index.
Since we haven't met since June, just wanted to bring the board up to date. I know we have done it as well through the media and other channels. The board is aware, but third place as far as the crime severity index goes is a nice place to be. And again, the consistent message by the police service is not so much that it's third or fifth or ninth, but that we're consistently near the bottom. And that's where we want to try to maintain our presence in place. And there is neighboring services that may not be able to ever achieve that because of the different dynamics that they have. But as far as the town of LaSalle goes, we're very proud of that. We're proud of the relationship we have with our community and able to achieve that particular goal. And again, it speaks for itself. And you know, as numbers go, I don't want to, you know, put all our eggs into the basket and say that this is, you know, nothing could ever happen severe in LaSalle. But we have to be able to at least recognize that numbers are numbers, and should, you know, we get a couple significant incidents that could change that number. So that message, again, from my perspective, is consistently low. That's where we want to be.
Thank you. Board's pleasure.
Move receipt.
Support by Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Sale of LaSalle Police Service fleet vehicles.
Yes, Your Worship and members of the board, just to advise, we had 2 vehicles that were past their life expectancy with the service and higher mileage that we sold. And bringing it forward, I just wanted to advise the board that our intention from this point forward is any marked police vehicle, our intention is to decommission the vehicle, not to make it operational and sold for use on the road. Obviously, last year we had the shooting in Nova Scotia by somebody impersonating an RCMP officer. Easily at that time was able to get a police vehicle or a lookalike vehicle. We certainly don't want that to occur and at least have ourselves associated with that. I can tell you that the financial implication is minimal. If we were to sell these vehicles at auction, we're talking a couple $100 difference. So just selling it to basically a auto wreckers or a scrap dealer is a better option for us at this particular point. And again, that only covers marked police vehicles. We have other vehicles that we use, administrative vehicles that don't look like police vehicles. And in those cases, if those vehicles were to be rotated out of our fleet, we would certainly look at the option of auction at that point as well.
Okay, thanks. Questions, comments? Board's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support by Vicky Houston. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Item 3, LaSalle Police Service Community Focus 2021, January to June. You were busy.
Yes. Yeah, that's just our administrative assistant had pulled out the particular numbers throughout the months of what we've been involved with, and certainly we were out and about, so in the community.
Well, didn't the Mr. Cluna say it's good to have community involvement?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Board's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash and support Mr. Allen. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. LaSalle Police Services Board 2021 correspondence summary. It's a list of all the emails received. Any questions, Mr. Allen?
Move
Moved by Mr. Allen, support by Ms. Houston. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Crime Stoppers Coordinator and Statistical Report for June, July, and August of 2021. Any highlights? Anything you want to speak on?
Nothing to speak on there, Your Worship.
Okay, board's pleasure. Crime moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support by Mr. Allen. All in favor? That carries. They continue to do the job they're meant to do. LaSalle Police Service second quarter financial report. Questions? Board's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support by Mr. Allen. All in favor? That carries. LaSalle Police. LaSalle Police Service monthly statistics, June, July, August. Wait a minute, I missed one. LaSalle Police Service second quarter financial report. Anything you want to highlight there, Chief?
Nothing to highlight in that report.
Okay, board's pleasure. Deputy Mayor Malash and Ms. Houston, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. Now we go to LaSalle Police Service monthly statistics, June, July, August of 2021.
Just a couple comments on that, Your Worship,
Okay.
members of the board. The statistics, as you'll note, the comparators with that, we are comparing two different systems. So those numbers are going to be a little bit different. And we're hoping that once we get to, again, it's May of next year, when we'll actually be able to compare apples to apples. So it's apples to oranges right now. We are monitoring our activity, and there's no significant swings in any type of calls for service right now. And if Jason, if you have anything else to add there.
Just delving a bit deeper with the Versa as we switched over and learning about it. It just tracks a bit different. There's certain areas in our old Interpol system that were tracked on would be called a dispatch history. So you'd be able to see every property check. You know, right now our officers are using MDTs. So if they check vehicles on their own or maybe run a person on their own, those aren't necessarily tracked in the dispatch history. So numbers can be interpreted in many different ways. When you dig deep into the activity and you follow what's going on, there's not necessarily a drop off. It's just simply the way the stats are tracked right now. So like the chief said, once we get to this time next year, when we're comparing the Versaterm stats to the Versaterm stats, that's when we'll be able to see a lot clearer. So thank you for understanding the difference in the way the two databases track.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Board's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support by Mr. Allen. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. LaSalle Police Service financial statements, June, July, and August of 2021. I don't know if you want to highlight anything. Nothing jumped out at myself. Any, Chief?
Just one thing to highlight. We are tracking over on our information technology area. So as it stands right now, those are the efficiencies that we're looking to develop for next year, and look at a different way of also tracking that to be able to extract support out from our actual contracts and different things that way.
Thank you. Board's pleasure. Moved by Mrs. Malash, support by Mr. Allen. All in favor? That carries. Financial statements for June 2021. And July and August, sorry. That's for the board, or the board's budget, just to be clear. Comments, questions? I have nothing to highlight. Moved by Mr. Allen, support by Ms. Houston. All in favor? That carries. Thanks. Any questions or statements by board members? Seeing none, our next meeting will be tomorrow. Someone's going to be sworn in as the new chief. Big day. And I can say I'll be happy and proud to be in council's chambers for that.
Wonderful.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks viewing audience, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. Good night.
Bye.